Hey guys, so I did want to touch on this story. I had a lot of people reaching out to me and asked where I stood on the whole Free Palestine movement with like, are you pro-Israel? Are you a Zionist? Or are you for the Free Palestine? What do you think about Gaza? I thought this was a perfect opportunity to share my thoughts on all of that with the story of the Israeli embassy staffers, the couple that were engaged, young couple being gunned down by the lunatic Free Palestine person yesterday in Washington, D.C., and it's just so tragic, man. We're going to get into it. Before we do, make sure you like and subscribe to the channel and follow me at David Medina PDX across all social media. Now, whatever side you stand on, because there's this big split in the conservative movement of conservatives and Christians, for that matter, that are for against Israel, and there's Christians that are for Israel. There are Christians that think the Jews are God's chosen people, and the Christians that think the church has replaced Israel in God's eyes, and that Christians are the chosen people now. This whole like Israel-Palestine debate goes way deeper than just like what's going on in Gaza. This has been going on for centuries. And so you have Christians out there that are, in my opinion, mistakenly interpreting the Bible on how we are supposed to view the Jews and how we are supposed to view Israel. And, I think when people say that, the Free Palestine people or the conservative Christians that are for or against Israel mistake that as, oh, you're getting paid by Israel and you're just an Israeli puppet and Israel's in charge of Hollywood and all these other things. And it's like, I actually understand that is like most of Israel's atheists. I don't know if you guys know that, but I understand Israel is not perfect. I understand the Jewish people aren't perfect. And we can get into a big theological debate right now about, why the Jews are still God's chosen people, why the Bible says that, why I believe that. We've touched on that on other videos, but man, let's cover this story first, and then let's really go into it, because I think so many Christians and conservatives are being duped out there, Candace Owens types. And I don't want to sit here and bash Candace Owens and all of the people, all of the conservatives that are against Israel and like are for the whole Free Palestine movement, because I like those people. I like Candace Owens, and I don't see myself as her enemy. And I think we can have differences on things and not be enemies in the conservative movement. And I think that's what we, mistakenly do too much, is like when we disagree on certain topics, it's like, oh, you're not conservative. Oh, you're not, or you're a puppet of Palestine, or you're a puppet of Israel. Why can't we just have disagreements, right? And then, obviously there are traditional values, in my opinion, that you can't call yourself a conservative if you are not for conservative traditional values. Conservatism used to mean the upholding of traditional values, such as one man, one woman when it comes to marriage, all that kind of stuff. But for these purposes, this story, let's just get into the story, and we'll get into it here in a sec. So two Israeli staffers, young, beautiful staffers, and I would say that if they were Palestinian. Okay, I'm just making an observation. They're good looking, they're in love, they're engaged, were gunned down by a Free Palestine, call it for what it is, terrorists, coming out of DC's Capitol Jewish Museum yesterday, just in cold blood, gunned down in cold blood. The U.S. attorney of the area, Judge Janine Pirro, I think that her name, Judge Janine or whatever. I don't know her name, but she's the one that was on Fox. She has come out and said that the death penalty is on the table for the suspect that we're going to show you here in just a sec. But yeah, this is, man, when I heard this, what was even more disturbing than this, or just almost as disturbing as the news itself of these people getting gunned down in the name of Free Palestine, is some of the conservatives' responses to it online. You hear people say like, wow, why are we getting so bent out of shape over two Jewish people losing their lives, and we are silent when they're killing people in Gaza? Man, we'll get into it in a sec, but the two Israeli staffers who were gunned down by a pro-Palestinian terrorist outside the Capitol Jewish Museum on Wednesday night have been identified as friends and colleagues who fell in love and were just days away from being engaged. So tragic, man. Yoran Lishinsky, 28, and Sarah Milgram were fatally shot in the street as they left the American Jewish Committee's Access Young Diplomats reception just after 9 p.m. in Washington, D.C. Yoran and Sarah were friends and colleagues. They were in the prime of their lives, the Embassy of Israel to the USA wrote on X. And then obviously these Free Palestine people are already hailing these two as the suspect as a hero. We'll show you who that is in just a second. This evening, okay, so here's the guy, right? And the guy that was murdered. And here's the girl. I mean, look how beautiful she is. Oh, man, listen. I'm not trying to be like sucking up to the Jewish teat. Okay, I'm making an observation. She's a beautiful girl. Okay, so all these people out there, I know they're gonna say, "Oh, look at how much he's just sucking up to the Jews," and like, dude, stop that rhetoric. It's so childish, and it's literally so narrow-minded, to be honest. Now, do I believe that we should be funding war in Israel? I think Israel can take care of themselves, but I also recognize that Israel, if you know anything, listen, I'm not going to come on here and act like I'm some expert on anything, right? I know things, I read up on things, I read up on history, I come to my own conclusions. And my conclusion is the United States needs Israel in the Middle East. And a lot of people are going to come back with that and say, well, Israel is, Israel has blackmail on people in the United States and they're in control of everything. And, why is the United States like, man, I just go off of, when you have the Middle East, as much chaos as it's been, how many terrorist organizations are bred out of the Middle East. It's good to have a good, solid, strong ally there. That can't be disputed by anybody. Okay. Now let's look at the Elias Rodriguez. This guy was born in Chicago. This is the suspect that gunned these two down, the Free Palestine guy. He was born in Chicago. He had a bachelor's degree from University of Illinois, oral history researcher at the History Makers. He focuses on biographies of accomplished leaders in the African-American community. He belongs to the Party for Socialism and Liberation, and he's a far left activist. This was his LinkedIn right here. And then Andy No showed this, that he was the far left activist accused of shooting dead two Israelis outside the Capital Jewish Museum, has a long history of support for BLM, Palestine, communist, and anti-white causes. Those groups have been trying to scrub his associations with them by deleting articles and pages where he's mentioned. It's no secret that those movements that Andy No just mentioned, okay, the BLM, Palestine, communist groups, anti-white groups out there on college campuses. It's no secret. I mean, these are the same people that praise Luigi Mangione. These are the people that call for violence. These are the people that call for disruption. These are people that are called for that participated and called for violent protests. And at least those that don't call for it, they don't condemn it. And you see a lot of the Democrats in Congress, they don't condemn it. They don't condemn. These people preach violence. And so, I mean, one could argue that this is literally the result of all of this dangerous rhetoric coming from these far left organizations. And this was the guy getting apprehended yesterday. Look at this is the suspect. He said, "Free Palestine." You hear that chant at your local protest in blue cities like Portland. I hear that all the time when I go to protests or any kind of event in Portland. It's always that same chant, free, free, free Palestine, every single time. And what's crazy is I wish the same standard was applied to these people that are applied to conservatives. I mean, you have like literally conservatives and pro-life people that are protesting outside of abortion clinics and are treated more of terrorists and sent to prison more than a lot of these people having the same rhetoric and disrupting all of these congressional hearings. And I mean, I just wish it was applied the same because these people actually want violence. These people actually praise murderers. These people actually praise people like Luigi Mangione. The double standard is just, it has to end, man. We have to apply the law evenly across the board. And it's just like, man, conservatives or people on the right are treated so much differently. So Elias Rodriguez, the leftist activist who murdered two Jewish people in D.C., has been identified as a far-left activist from Chicago who belongs to the communist organization Party for Socialism and Liberation. And here he is as a close-up of him. Man, I mean, we're seeing with how much they say the right and MAGA and all this is a threat to democracy, you're seeing all these mass shootings and you're seeing all of these incidents of killings and violence, and it all comes from the same side. It's the same people. It's far left radicals. And then this is Laura Loomer said, the ex-account of Elias Rodriguez, the Palestinian movement could easily be shut down in the U.S. with the designation of the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. It needs to happen. Every lawmaker who supports the Palestinian movement should be censored. So this was his, he's saying death to America in some tweets. You know, and then Laura Loomer says he also deserves the death penalty. I mean, I have to agree with that. You take someone's life in cold blood, especially over politics, and you're not in self-defense. It's just in cold blood, innocent people in the name of your political ideology. Yeah, I think you deserve the death penalty. I have to agree with her on that. Even though, you know, I'm a big, you know, I'm not like a absolutist, like death penalty absolutist, right? Each case matters. I think in this case, it's warranted. So compare the tweet of the pro-Palestinian radical Elias Rodriguez to that of his victim, Yaron Lashinsky. The pro-Palestine movement is the most anti-American movement in our nation's history. And then look at this. This is from, you know, the guy that was murdered. He said, "We are deeply grateful for the historical alliance with our steadfast partner, the United States, and the great American people who have stood by our side. I look forward to working with this administration to bring about more security, freedom, and peace." And Coulter said, "This is what the ADL was writing about while Elias Rodriguez was out there marinating in the left-wing hate." Dave Portnoy, Stool Presidente from the head of Barstool Sports, known Jewish man. You know, he said a domestic terrorist went hunting Jews last night in Washington, D.C., open firing outside a Jewish event, killing 2 Jews. The terrorist, you know, Elias Rodriguez, yelled "Free Palestine" as he got arrested. This is the type of tragedy is the natural progression of the events when the morons running our colleges, far-left politicians, and hate merchants on social media continue to normalize and seemingly encourage anti-Semitism in this country. Now, here are my thoughts on this, okay? And this is not me trying to sit on a fence. This is a very complex issue. The whole Gaza, I mean, it isn't to me, like, but, you know, it is complex with how people talk about it politically and talk about it with, you have the Free Palestine people that are like, literally had nothing to say when, you know, over 1,000 Jews were slaughtered on October 7th in that invasion from Hamas. And nothing to say about those people being innocent, and then hostages were taken. Nothing to say about that. But as soon as Israel responds and, you know, starts bombing Gaza, it's like all of a sudden they're humanitarian people, and they're like, oh gosh, it's so bad, they're killing babies. Listen, Israel has a right to defend itself. It is the most attacked country in the Middle East. It's the most hated country, okay? It's not a secret that Iran and all these other countries hate Israel. Now, does that mean Israel is perfect and always the victim? I don't think so. But to say that Gaza, like kids and stuff dying, that is sad if that really is happening. But I don't understand why. I understand the outrage for that by people like Candace Owens and Dave, what's that guy's name? The libertarian, you know, Dave Smith. The comic, Dave Smith. I understand when people like that call that out and they say, you know, why is Israel allowed to, you know, first of all, Israel was attacked first, was it not? Am I missing something there? If I am, please tell me. Okay, so they responded by going into Gaza and hunting down Hamas. Now, these piece of, you know what, cowards of Hamas, a terrorist organization, okay, I've talked to Palestinians in Portland. I've talked, because I want to talk to people on both sides. I want to learn about this issue to the very core. And one of the conversations I had with a Palestinian, a Palestinian that was from Gaza, that was in Portland. I was at a protest, and the Palestinian basically told me that I was like, why do the Palestinian people go to Hamas for their protection and for their, you know, why don't they get rid of Hamas? Why do they fall back on Hamas? Hamas is the reason why you guys are in this situation right now. And he basically told me, well, we have no choice. We have no one else defending us. And when Israel is the aggressor, in times when they shouldn't be the aggressor, no one defends us. So we kind of are desperate to fall back on that. I wish Trump would find a solution to that, which I think he's trying to do. Giving up Israeli land is not a good solution, in my opinion, because that's Israel's land. It was given to them after the 6-Day War. They earned that land. They were given that land by the United Nations, I believe, you know, after World War II. So also biblically, my faith tells me that God gave that land to Israel, all the way back to the days of Moses. That is holy land that is given to Israel. God not only gave Israel that land, but they prophesied that after the diaspora, that the Jews would come back together and form a country. That is literally prophecy. So as a Christian, I believe, yes, the Jews are God's chosen people. And people are like, why do you believe that? Why would the Jews, they are such terror. They don't even love God anymore. They're in unbelief. That's literally what the Bible says will happen in the end times. And maybe there's a reason God chose the Jews as his chosen people, because they're so stubborn, because they're in such unbelief that they're like one of the hardest people to get to follow you and to get to do what you want them to do. And maybe that's why God chose them. And that's because the Jews are a reflection of God's love and his mercy. You have to understand that. And if you're not a Christian, you probably don't know what I'm talking about right now, but that's what I believe. And so when you see these Christians, and they're almost always these Catholic Christians, that these Catholics that believe that the church has replaced Israel in God's eyes, and that we are the chosen people now, and that that God is done with the Jews. I don't see that. Explain Romans 11 to me. Explain the book of Romans to me if that's true. Because Paul clearly says in Romans to not be ignorant or arrogant, and that we are grafted in, the Gentiles are grafted in. And that if you cut off the root, you're cutting off, you look at all the way back to the Abrahamic covenant, about how God made the covenant with Abraham, that, he said, those who curse Israel, I will bless those who bless Israel and curse those who curse Israel. It's an everlasting covenant in the Old Testament, the Abrahamic covenant. So there's so many things in my view as a Christian that says, whoa, we need to be careful. Now, does that mean that I believe that Israel is we just let them go crazy, and that there's no such thing as a corrupt Jewish person? No, dude, there's corrupt Jewish people everywhere. They're in Hollywood. A lot of them are in Hollywood, and they honestly, in my opinion, I know this can be very controversial, they use their Jewish identity to get away with stuff. I truly believe that. I don't think that's right. Now, I'm not going to sit here and judge which one does which, but I believe it happens. Just like all the rest of us hide behind stuff. We all do the same thing too. I truly believe that. So I don't believe that the Jews are perfect, but I do believe that God holds them very high, which makes me caution to jump on the whole free Palestine and Gaza. How about Palestinians denounce Hamas, and if you truly want peace, ask the United States and Israel for it and make a plan with them and get rid of the terrorist organization that has been, because a lot of these Hamas fighters, and I asked this Palestinian in Portland, I was like, well, doesn't Hamas use schools and hospitals, or is that a myth? Don't they? And they're like, well, yeah, but that happens. That doesn't happen very, they try not to do that. And I was like, what do you mean they try not to do that? And it's been pretty much founded that Hamas uses churches, schools, hospitals to set up their military operations, and civilians, they hide behind civilians. That's a known thing. So I'm not sure why this whole thing is directed at Israel for protecting itself. I think Israel has to have some responsibility and at some point find a solution to this instead of just going crazy, right? We made our point. You've been at war for a long time now after that invasion on October 7th. And it's like, now let's try to find an actual solution that doesn't involve bombing if possible. But if Hamas is going to keep attacking and they're going to keep doing things what they did on October 7th, what was that, 2023, 24, was it 23? Then you can't get mad at when Israel responds. And so it's just like, it's a very complex issue. But at the end of the day, I think the energy from these conservatives and Christians have to be directed towards Hamas more than Israel. And yes, it's sad that kids are dying. Yes, it's sad that, families are dying and people are getting bombed. That's obviously, that's really sad. But we need to hold the people accountable that need to be held accountable, and stop just hating Jews just to hate Jews, just because they're Jewish people. I believe that a lot of this hate for Jews from conservatives, from Christians, from these Catholics, it really comes from a hatred for Jewish people. I really believe that. Not all of them. Not saying all of them, but some of them. So anyways, let me know what you think in the comments. If you agree, disagree with me, I'd love to hear it. Let's keep it respectful. I really do love learning from people that differ from me. And this is a very sensitive issue. People are losing their lives every day over there. And it's a sad thing. War, no matter where it is in the world, is sad, man. And it's not fun. And innocent people losing their lives, never a good thing. But I think we just have to be more mindful on this, not get so tribal, like choose one side or the other. We just have to call things for what they are, in my opinion. So let me know what you think. Thanks for joining me. Like and subscribe to the channel. Follow me at Dave Medina PDX across all social media, and we'll see you on the next one.